All right, so everybody, welcome to the Reason Consulting and the Tax Management Associates webinar on canvassing and services around canvassing. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy days to join. This webinar is recorded, so if you want a recording of this, I know that Reason posted it on our YouTube channel. And we'll provide a link afterwards for you to go, and you can send that to other people who might be interested in seeing this who didn't have a chance to join or didn't have the time. All right. Let me go into this. All right, so some housekeeping to get the webinar kicked off and some of the rules. Of course, as you come in, you'll notice that you're on mute. That way we can, because there's so many people on this, it's going to be close to 100. It's the only way to really kind of have our conversation. But there is a chat. So there's a chat. If you have a question, please send in a question. This is going to be the agenda. There'll be three speakers. One is Tim Donovan, who's an assessor of the City of Quincy, Massachusetts. The other is Jay Toronto from Tax Management Associates. And I'm going to also speak, but I'm your host, Andy, from Reason Consulting. We're going to also have some poll questions as well. And at the end of time, if I make this happen correctly, I can get it so that about the 40-minute mark into this or so, we'll have easily 10, 15 minutes for questions if you have a lot of questions at the end. But please, all along, submit questions if you have questions on anything, and then that way we'll hopefully get to them at the end. And also at the end, I'll have everyone's contact for Tim, Jay, or myself. So if you want to send us a note or whatnot, please, reach out. Okay, so let me kick this off with my part. All right, I'm going to take about 15 minutes to not only just introduce you to Reason Consulting if you've never heard of us, but also I want to explain what the problem is around canvassing and how we want to solve it in this new way, but also do a really quick demo. And then hopefully I can get this into the 15 minutes, although everyone from Reason knows that that's going to be really difficult for me. All right, so Reason Consulting, we started in 2022. We've grown to be about 33 people. We're in 16 states now. We have a headquarters in North Carolina and also an office in Brighton, Michigan, which will be important later for the demo. We do two big things. One of them is what this is all about, and it is in AuditWare. And AuditWare is where we build products to help the assessing community solve problems themselves, and for like a do-it-yourself where you can audit yourself and do those kinds of things. And I'm going to go into it. Digital Canvas is part of AuditWare. But the other big thing that we do is TaxScribe. We take your business personal property forms, we make them electronic, and we have built a data management platform to manage all of those forms in all the states plus DC, the 37 different entities that still have these business personal property forms. Where by this time next month, we will be national and have them all done. And you're like, wow, that's really something to do all of it. What would be the point of that? It's because when we talk to the large accounting firms and the large national brands, they wanted a national platform to do all of this. And that's called TaxScribe. It's super cool. But let me keep going. So let's get into canvassing. All right, so the problem is canvassing. Canvassing has become a problem. So IAAO, part of their, what they think is best practices is to conduct an annual canvass. But canvassing is an enormous problem. It's the way that people that are still canvassing, what they're doing nowadays is just like how they did it in the beginning, which is they'll drive around and they'll go door to door, and that's enormously inefficient and getting more and more dangerous. Um, the some of the jurisdictions we're talking to, they've given up totally on canvassing, and now they've gone towards they'll look at different databases, and they'll look at things where like there's a grand opening of a business and see if it's on their list, and it's kind of spotty the way that they're canvassing. And so, and especially since COVID, a lot of jurisdictions that we have talked to, and we've talked to well over 100 different jurisdictions, they've just kind of given up on it. And then, some of it is around geography, the traffic is too much, or the size of the jurisdiction is the size, the county alone is so large that it'll take hours just to drive across it, and things like that. And you couple that with the lack of staffing. We've been hearing a lot of complaints that the business personal property teams aren't fully staffed, and it's difficult to hire people into the assessing community. And so canvassing just stopped happening. So what we looked at was, could there be a better way to do it? And so we looked at your annual process of the things that the assessing community does around business personal property. And we're like, okay, when it comes to discovery, could we take this problem and break it down into three phases? The canvassing, and then um, we discovered that once we solved the canvassing part, our first customers were then doing all of the audits and the investigations with paper or on Excel spreadsheets. And we're like, okay, well, we're going to need to have a case manager tool so that you can electronically track. And then the third phase, which we also found out was another really huge problem, was a lot of businesses won't self-assess anyway. So what are the typical assets of different types of businesses so that you can get them into compliance? And so we built a third phase called CABS. That's been super successful. And anyway, so those are the three phases. And so let me get into really quickly what those are. So first is digital canvas. So what do? We take your list of data of the businesses that you think are current. Like, hey, here's the ones in the jurisdiction that we think are current. And then we take that and we hit it against a whole bunch of outside data. Now, not all the data sources that we could get, but really specific ones. We want to be surgical about grabbing specific pieces of data. And then the types of data, well, we're going to be grabbing things like Google for hours of operation, all the different review websites that we can get our hands on, and websites where a website says, hey, we think that for instance, Reason Consulting has an office in Brighton, Michigan. Do we see that in the list? And a whole bunch of other databases. And then what we'll do is we'll return the hits, if you will, on a live Google map. And so that's what you're seeing there. And I'm going to do a demo of it. So let's just keep going. All right. So then once you do the hits, remember our first customers were writing them down on pieces of paper. It was difficult to manage. The next year, where were those pieces of paper? Things are on Excel spreadsheets. So what we wound up doing was creating an electronic case manager tool. And you can do any investigation that you want in this. We have people doing things like homestead exemption with it. And we have people doing watercraft investigations, all different kinds of things, and audits using this case manager. And then the third phase was the CABS tool, which is, like I said, the templates. Here on the left, you can see all the templates are alphabetical, and it'll help you create an assessment on the right that you can send to the business to help start the discussion to get them going. Okay, so enough about that. All right, now this is our second year doing it. We in our first year, a lot of innovators from around the country were in 7 states with it in the first year. And a lot of innovators like grabbed onto this saying, hey, you're right, canvassing is a huge problem. And they started to use it. And what what we learned in that first year of getting this into different hands and of all different states was okay, our algorithm could be tweaked so we could get even more hits. And certain things were false positives, like Hunt Brothers Pizza, for instance. They show that they have locations, but those aren't actual locations in the sense of what we were looking for this. And so, like, could we tweak the algorithm to include some things, exclude some other things? We've also added so many features and functionality. So if you've seen Digital Canvas as a demo a year ago, I mean, we've added so many things, not only in Digital Canvas, but in Case Manager and in CAS, where we improved all three of those products immensely. But one of the biggest things that we did in improvements was I would take the time and actually sit with the people doing investigations. I would say, hey, I would like to see how you're using it. And Tim will tell you, I sat with him on a Friday for hours as he was going through and looking at things. And I realized as I helped design this and then also helping and to train people on how to use it, that I was actually part of the problem. I was so excited about it. I'm going to show you in the demo. I was so excited. I showed too many things, and there was a quicker way to do it. And then secondly was, hey, I think we need to add discovery service. But all right, without further ado, let me get into a demo. So hold on, let me escape this and go into a demo. All right. So what time I've got here. All right, so I've still got time. All right. So what we wanted to do is this is the city of Brighton in Michigan, and they're not a customer, but our office is there. And if I'm going to show that there's a business that is not compliant, I didn't want to pick on a business that was actually not compliant. So I'm going to pick on our satellite office, if you will, in Brighton, Michigan. And so this is the map of what you would see. This is a live map. And what we did in Digital Canvas is we're going to render it this way. So now this is, if you will, the list of businesses in this. This is an artificially created, because remember, I'm going to be showing that Reason is the corporation that is not compliant. But this data is actual. These are the businesses that are there. So as you scroll in, you will start to see that there's the businesses in this area are going to start to pop up. All right. So here we are. This is the businesses that they gave, and we found in the data in this that are active. And so now, if the city of Quincy were to do a demo, there would be thousands of businesses and there'd be thousands of pinpoints. And each of the pinpoints this is their list of businesses that they thought they had. We hit it against all those outside databases. And these are the ones that we said, you know what, they're active. And so if I look at the filter, you'll see that this is the active. There are many other filters that we can hit on, and I'm going to go through a few of them for this demo. The demo usually takes, much more time, and there's a lot of buttons and a lot of cool things in here, but I'm just going to do a highlight. All right. So these pinpoints represent the businesses there. So if I were to click on one, this is the Panera Bread, and this is the type of data that we would return. We would return where we think they are, what their phone number is, what their website is, their Facebook, if we were to see these kinds of pieces of data, what year it opened that we saw, what year we started to see it first, when we started to last see it, all kinds of information for you to understand of what you thought you had and what we agreed on. We found all of this stuff is clickable. So if I were to click on it, it will take us to it, that this is the Panera Bread. It's down here like this here. Hold on. The Zoom meeting, and it makes it so I can't click some buttons. All right. So let's get rid of that. All right. So all of these things are live. If I were to, the Facebook page, of course, would take you to the Facebook page. All of those things to help you do an investigation. And let's go back to it. But if you were to also want to know some things, you would say, well, I'm interested not only in the active businesses, but I'm also interested in different zip codes and whatnot, and we can help you filter all of that. So if you want to do this, if you want to look at specific businesses in this zip code or the other zip code, all these kinds of different ways to filter the stuff, and also by personnel. So here's me and things that are assigned to me ahead of time. All right, so there's also a search as well. So if I were to say, hey, I'm looking for a bank, for instance, then the different banks might pop up. So I said, oh, I'm interested in the Comerica Bank. Different information would pop up for the Comerica Bank. All right, so now let's get to what you're kind of interested in, of course, is I'm not interested in bank. Let's get rid of that. And I'm interested in, if I'm doing this, I'm interested in canvassing what businesses might be closed, and let's put those as different color pinpoints. What businesses might be new? Now, there are other fields in here, like, for instance, home base, data review, field review. Different jurisdictions want different things. We put different filters there. So shout out to the customers we have in Virginia. They were very interested in home-based businesses for licensing and all kinds of other pieces. And that's a filter that you can look at those as well. But for this, and I'm running out of time, I'm going to go real fast. I want to canvas, let's get rid of the businesses that we both agree on, that the ones you think are there and the ones that we found, and just go to the ones that are interesting in this regard. So in light green is Reason Consulting. That's the new business that is new to the jurisdiction and it hasn't become compliant. So if I were to click on it, here's Reason Consulting. It has all this information that you can click on. Here's their website. You can go in and look at their contacts and you can say, hey, they do have a Brighton office here. That's very interesting. And what I used to do when I was doing training on the first year was say, hey, this is really interesting. Take a screenshot. And then also I'd say, oh, look, they have a Facebook page, and go to the Facebook page. And then I would also say, um, hold on, this Zoom is in my way. Wait, that's the problem with the Zoom. All right, so I'd also say, hey, go to the Facebook page, take a screenshot of the Facebook page. I'd also say, hey, let's look at the Google Map. When you look at the Google Map, it will take you to it and the Google Map. So this is live. You can see that they close at 6 p.m. You can take the Street View person here and zoom in and go right in, and you can say, hey, here I am looking at the Reason logo in the Reason building. They're closing at 6. I'm thinking that this is a legitimate business. I would also, and Tim will attest, I'd also say, hey, go to the Secretary of State, look up Reason Consulting, and check all this data. And this is the point where Tim said, and others, hey, Andy, I mean, I've already made up my mind that you were right. This is a new business. Why don't I just call the phone number and start to skip some of those extra steps, because I already think that Reason Consulting isn't on my list of businesses. I think that this one needs a letter of welcome. Let's get going on that. And so could we shorten the number of clicks? But imagine all this for investigative purposes. And then it's the same kind of thing for a closed business. Here's the closed business. Now there may not be a Facebook page and whatnot, because as a business closes out, they start to lose some of that information in the system. And so as I was working with people, they were saying, hey, you know what, Andy, uh, as we're seeing that this business is closed in this amount of detail, and when we see this kind of search, this is enough information. So you're like, hey, MapQuest says it's closed. TripAdvisor says it's looking closed. This is looking closed. Let's make a phone call and determine that it's closed right here. Let's call that number. If it's disconnected, like I've already done, I don't need to do all the Secretary of State and all this extra stuff. So if we go back to my presentation and we go back to the problem was I was doing a lot of extra steps. I was super excited about the product and all the different things it could do. And so what I learned from the first year was there's a fewer steps that could be baked into the product. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to put just a couple of steps with a phone call. And then and from that, it drives the process from being like 8 minutes, 10 minutes of searching around to 2, 3, 4 minutes where, hey, you're making a phone call and you've already determined that this is a new or a closed business. Let's move on. And then the other part was, hey, we need to get some sort of discovery service going on where if we don't have the staffing, like let's make that happen. And so at this point, I am a little over time, and everyone knew I was going to do that anyway. I'm going to switch over to Tim to have him go through what his experiences were with the City of Quincy before I take it back and say, hey, what are the things that we're going to try to do? Why are we having a webinar with Reason and TMA? All right, so with that being said, Tim, you have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. To Andy and Reason, thank you for having me. Guys, my name's Tim Donovan. I'm from City of Quincy. I'm on the Board of Assessors. I've been here since 2023. I graduated UMass Boston, and I have a background in real estate as a realtor and doing property management. And since April 2024, I assume responsibility for the city's personal property accounts. And when we started talking with Andy, I realized there's a lot more we could pick up. And in our office, I probably felt in yours, it's not fair if one business is paying and another's not. And there's a lot of wasted money going out, sending out FOLs, sending out reminders. So I was really excited to jump into this. So today I'm just going to share my experience. We do have a population of just under 102,000. So um, let's get into it. I'm excited. So we use all three of those applications that Andy just described, the digital canvas, the case manager, and the cost analysis valuation system. It was super easy to set up. We gave Andy our accounts, and within a week, they were all plotted on the map, and I was able to go through. It was super easy. There was no lagging. And every time I had a question, I would just give Chester or Andy a call. They jump right on with me. We could do a Google Meet or a Zoom. They were very flexible. And every single time I did talk to them, they always wanted to try to fix it. And I was describing it as like time sucks when I'm going through. And we realized there were a couple bottlenecks and they just trying to continue to evolve the technology, which I really appreciated. That you don't always find that working with other companies. So this is our first year with Reason. I don't have new growth or additional revenue numbers to share. I will have those next year, or if you want to reach out, I can share them. But I do expect them. We here in Quincy, we have a $10,000 threshold, which I'm sure many of you do as well. So I think we will have above that, and then also the saving money, not having to send out FOLs and bills to close businesses. We can clean up that data, which is important to me. So just a real quick run through of the three, how I go about my day using this. I am doing other things in the office, and I know this can be something where it really ties the day up, but the way they have it set up, you can move through it real quickly. So the digital canvas, I will go in, I'll filter in new accounts. I will click through them. I do something real easy. I just click the bubble, I click the Google link, it sends me to the business, and Google will tell you whether it's closed, permanently closed, or if it's open. And I just pick up the phone and call them and ask them what their hours are. They say that they're open. I'm like, okay, great. I go back to digital canvas. if I call and the phone just kind of rings or nobody picks up or makes a weird noise, I just do a quick dismiss and then go back to digital canvas. I will create a case and it'll jump to case manager where I can put in the account numbers from RRC, which is our vendor. They handle all of our formal lists and asset collecting valuations. So I will export it over to case manager and I'll make notes about what I did. I called, someone answered, nobody answered. And then I'll create an RSC, I'll put the account into case manager, and that's real simple. That's all I do. Then I can export it to an Excel sheet. I can send out the formal list. It takes me a lot quicker than it used to, where it was you're going around town and you're trying to see new businesses or you're reading the Patriot Ledger or different newspapers and word of mouth. It just wasn't effective. So this was a much better model to follow. Um, and then just for a specific example, we had a company, they filed an abatement saying that one of the machineries that was on their assets, or I'm sorry, on their data sheet was not, we did not have it anymore. So I went out to do an inspection, and while I was out there, I wrote down other assets that they had, like printer, chairs, desks, stuff of the sort. And when I came back, I never worked at Staples, so I don't know the valuations as far as, what a desk or computer or fax machine costs. So I went into cabs and I was able to get a valuation, and then I was able to use that to kind of back me up when I put it on the data sheet and moving forward. So that's great because I know as an assessor, people like to argue and they think it's a different value. And it's nice when you have something to back yourself up and it's backed by market data, which is really important. And then the same thing with someone who is not submitting a form of list. You know, they'll watch it go from 11,000 and the depreciation will drop until it's below 10,000 and they won't get a bill anymore. So I've been looking out for stuff like that. And I'll be able to estimate it with the cabs and go back into the data sheet and make appropriate changes with backed data. So overall, I've been really happy with this, and I think it's an easy setup. You could actually probably, if you had like an intern, I know people are understaffed, if an intern could go through this, it's easy to train, which is important. So total accounts in Quincy, we have just over 2,000. And so far working with them for a year now, I've been able to close 103 accounts, which saved a lot of money, 5%. And then I added 200 new accounts. And yeah, so far it's been great. So if you guys ever have questions, you can reach out. My number's on the first slide, but you can also email me. I'm happy to talk more about my experience.
Okay, thank you. Well, let me try to get out of this and go back. Okay, so let's go back. So first off, that was actually all of those pinpoints you can see in this. This is the City of Quincy data, and I've blocked out the unique ID for the city, but you can see how they're going to have their thousands of accounts on the map that they can click on. All right, so let's go back real quick to the right. So now let's go back real quick to it. So now you've seen the solution there. Let's go back. So here we're back in the digital canvas, and we were looking at this. So I'm working with people like Tim, who's like, hey, Andy, there's a quicker process. And so we're building this into the quicker process. Hey, let's take a screenshot of this. Let's take a screenshot of this right here and saying that it's permanently closed. Those were really interesting. And then you can edit, and I've already edited right here. You can see that I've added the screenshots earlier. I've also taken notes. So you can edit right here. It's assigned to me. I can add my notes. I can upload screenshots and whatever. And then I can create the case or I can dismiss it. The dismiss comes in really handy. I can create the case. If I create the case, it goes over to the case manager that um, that Tim was talking about. And so the cases come into the case manager. I'm gonna go real fast. All of the cases can be they'll pre-populate into the case manager for you. And then like here's Dottie's Tacos, for instance. And if I go into Dottie's Tacos, I can see more details as I work it. So I can add more notes. The notes got pre-populated. I can I can look at the screenshots would be here, and I can edit any part of the case as it's being worked. There's so much more in the case manager that we just don't have time to go through. But then there's also the third phase that Tim was talking about was calves. And so then the calves part was, and it came in handy where he wanted to know the assets of a typical business of that type. And you can see alphabetically, we have 450 business types here and growing. And I can search and say, well, I want to see the typical assets of a sheet metal manufacturer because I want to create an assessment on it. Here's my sheet metal manufacturer. I can quickly, now if I fill this part out, I'm going to fill out a form to send to them. That's the name of the business and whatnot. But I can quickly see that a typical sheet metal manufacturer is going to have an air compressor, cutting machine, forklift, grinders, jacks, saws, welders. And here's the prices net new. I can add assets. I can delete assets. I can totally change this if I want to. But a typical sheet metal manufacturer with 10 employees is going to be around this. I can move it down to 6. It's a little bit smaller. I can change this around to create an assessment on the fly to send. It's super handy. And we get a lot of questions about this kind of thing right here. And when you create a form, it'll look like this. I created one earlier for Andy's Tacos food truck. I added silly thing and a whole bunch of stuff and some notes. And you can just send that. And of course, this is from the Reason Consulting thing. All right, so that's the solution. And so then we go back into the presentation. The issue came around, well, what do we do about the lack of staffing? And what do we do about helping out to support? Because you guys are busy on the business personal property team. And so we looked at like, could we create not only a product, but with a service? So here's Digital Canvas on the left. And this is what Tim did. He did do-it-yourself investigations. We armed him with that. But now we're like, hey, could there be a support with discovery services to help identify the new and closed so that when we deliver the solution, could we have them already in Case Manager, the new and closed businesses? So that if you don't have a staff or you're lacking the ability to go through all of them, could we support you with that so that you could canvas like this? And then we had some customers who were like, hey, we're looking for more than just that as service. And so it's kind of like, what if we were to team with well, actually, well, the service business in the market, and that was TMA. And so could we deliver on all of those promises? Could we build something if you want to do it yourself? Could TMA do it and do canvassing with our thing, but also more full service audit services, reconciliation of assets and on-site audits, et cetera, et cetera, or meet you in the middle with discovery service. And so that was was the birth of like me reaching out to Jay and saying, hey, I think that I think that the market really needs, options. And so with that, I'm going to introduce, oh shoot, there's poll questions. Before before I introduce Jay, let's get the poll questions. And I don't know how to do this. Help me out. Um, help me out. Um, Let me see here. How do I do the poll questions in
You've
the,
initiated them, Andy, and they have, yeah, they should pop up on the screen of the individuals in the meeting.
do you see this?
Mhm. I do. And I've got a poll question that says, do you currently canvas for new and closed businesses?
Okay, so poll question one, do you currently canvass for new and closed businesses? Hosts and panelists cannot vote, so but hopefully people are answering those poll questions. We have two questions. Let's see, where is the second one? I don't know how to get to the second one.
I will launch the second one after the first one.
Okay. All right. Let's launch the second one. All right, poll question number two. What constraints are holding you back from canvassing? Time, staff, budget, data privacy? None. All right. And then remember, there's a chat feature. There's a chat feature if you have questions. All right. We'll go through the poll question answers after Jay. So let me hand it over to Jay Toronto from Tax Management Associates. Take it away, Jay.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. And thanks for joining us today. Andy, great job. And Tam, great job as well. We were excited when, as a lot of you know, Reason and TMA have been partners for a long, long time. And we always had to address the issue from our clients, whether or not we had discovery services. And it's one of the missing holes that we didn't have that software component some years ago. And then when TMA and Reason rejoined together recently, we decided to partner in this fashion to offer this full solution, right, beginning to end, and uncover these businesses open and close that were causing a lot of jurisdictions issues and maintaining their databases. So we're excited to now be able to work together and offer this full to start to begin business. But for you who don't know who TMA is, we've been providing revenue enhancement services for state and local jurisdictions for over 46 years. We primarily conduct business with personal property and tangible personal property audits for jurisdictions, ranging various sizes to doing 20 audits a year to doing 2,000 audits a year for jurisdictions. We have 120 employees across 5 offices throughout the United States. We employ government officials, accountants, TPS designees who specialize in personal property audits. And when we try to cater a program that meets the needs of jurisdiction. So we can sit with you and determine which properties that you have that you want to audit and move forward with. So Andy, if you go to the next slide. A little bit about our experience. We've done projects, as I said, for over 46 years. We've done over 550 property, business personal property projects. With that is a lot of revenue that's discovered. We have returned over $70 billion in discovered revenue as a result of our audit work, which then results in more than $1 billion of tax revenue dollars coming back into your jurisdiction, and not just for the current year, but that's years rolling forward. So obviously audits prove to be beneficial, whether or not you're doing them, but TMA has been very successful in this fashion. Next slide, Andy. So a number of different programs that TMA provides, obviously business and tangible personal property. audits. We also do homestead and legal residence exemption projects. We do business discovery validation, which is what Andy talked about, TMA offering now that we have a partner that can at least bring to the table potential open and closed businesses in the jurisdiction. The other, another service that we do is administrative support services. TMA can assist jurisdictions with personal property filings on a regular basis. It's a huge task during a crunch period of every year of taking those personal property forms that get submitted by the taxpayers and then incorporating those into your HAMA system or your valuation system. TMA can help supplement your staff and assist you with incorporating and filing those forms into your system. We also do a number of other different types of taxes: hotel, motel tax, sales and use tax validations, gross receipts. There's anything that's a business tax compliance program, TMA can cater and offer that to your jurisdiction. And next slide, Andy. So the question always comes up, why should you audit, right? So audit, even discovery is somewhat of an audit, right? You're validating whether or not these businesses exist or no longer exist in your jurisdiction. Next slide. So couple of reasons why, not a couple of reasons, but the benefits of conducting programs. Taxpayers are educated in reporting requirements, right? Once they go through an audit program, typically they're going to start reporting correctly in years in the future, and that assists you and gets you more accurate data on a regular basis. It also establishes equity in your jurisdiction. So if you audit and you know that properties are reporting correctly and you're valuing them correctly, obviously the assessment equity in your jurisdiction is leveled out. And then future reporting compliance. As I said, after we typically audit programs, majority, I wouldn't say all of them, but a majority of them tend to start improving how they report to you in the future, because they've learned what they need to report, what was missing, what was discovered, and therefore going forward, it makes it a much easier job on your end. There's also additional current revenue. The byproduct of doing an audit is, first of all, to establish equity, but the byproduct is also it generates revenue. And you saw the dollar amounts that we returned to jurisdictions, and I think most of anybody that's on the webinar here today that we've done work for can attest to the benefit of conducting audits and the amount of increased revenue it's brought to your tax base. And then it's also not just that current year, but it's also all future years. So those are missing assets over a period of time, but rolling forward, you're going to catch those on a regular basis. And then also professional recognition. IAAO recommends that jurisdictions conduct personal property audits. It also helps show your taxpayers that you are doing everything in your power to disperse equity amongst your taxpayers. And it's just good PR to preach and show your taxpayers that you're doing everything you possibly can to make it fair and equitable in your jurisdiction. Those are some of the issues that, again, Andy wanted to bring us on as part of this, because a lot of times you'll uncover a business, right? And then as Tim showed you, they inserted that business into CAVs, which gives you a standard or typical valuation based on assets, but it still doesn't prove whether or not it's totally accurate. And that's where TMA can come in and validate that business, and then go out into a business property audit on those businesses that maybe haven't done in the past, and why we could come in and assist you in that fashion. Andy, that's pretty much everything I had.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it. All right, so So the thing with a 1 hour with multiple products and two different companies in the city of Quincy is it was a lot of information that we're going to try to impart in a very brief period of time. So I had to like skip over a ton of things in the demonstration, and I think I lost some people in it, so that's my fault. Um, and so I'll try to answer some of the questions. There's different people from the companies in the chat, hopefully answering questions as they're asked. And so I'm gonna ask some questions of the panelists separate as we're doing answering them live. So one question that was for the City of Quincy for Tim, with all the accounts on the map, because you had thousands of pinpoints on the map. Was there lag time or did the software slow down? Like what was the
No, there was no lag time. The software was able to keep up. So we were really impressed by that.
cool? Awesome. And then Jay, here's one for TMA. Can TMA perform personal property audits based on a specific selection of accounts in a jurisdiction?
How do you want? So absolutely, we sit with you and determine the subset of audits that you want to do. It could be a certain amount on a yearly basis. Typically, we like to suggest doing a full program over a period of time. That way you can justify to your taxpayers that nobody is selected individually and you're conducting a audit program on all your businesses that require audit. I also see another question in the chat, Andy. It says, does TMA do in-person audits? So yes, the answer to that is we will actually set up an appointment with the taxpayer. We will go meet where the records are typically held. That doesn't always mean that they're held on location of the business. Typically where the accountant and the asset list are stored and held. But we will actually go sit with the accountant or whoever holds the assets in the business, reconcile with them on site, wherever they are, and then also conduct, after we do that, we will also conduct an on-site inspection of the property to make sure everything that we uncovered during the reconciliation phase was falling in line with what we see, on the business.
Awesome. Okay, I get asked whenever I do these, I get asked, hey, can we just buy cabs? And the answer is yes. We price them separately and as a package. We have Reason Consulting has about 9 products, and we have customers who will buy multiple sets of products, and I've been accused of being like Flo from Progressive, bundling home and auto, and we give discounts on things. But to give you a flavor for pricing, cabs, we price per user. So if I go back to that one, that product is, remember that had 450 plus business templates, and you can create an assessment on almost any kind of business out there. And to start a dialogue so that the business self-assesses. And we charge that by user. So it's annually it's $1,000 a user for unlimited assessment creation. And then we give discounts at 3 users. And then Digital Canvas, we price based off the number of businesses you have. Because we pay for all the data that we're hitting against. And so the size of the size of the jurisdiction will determine, and how many businesses you have will determine the pricing. So just reach out and we'll work out on that issue. And then there was a question for just another couple questions before we end the webinar. There was a question for Tim, on how do you organize your cases? Because it was clear that your efforts helped really organize like the efficiency of this product going forward. Like, how did you do it?
Yeah, in the case manager, you're able to tag the different accounts, and I would tag them. It's just what I picked out of the options was discovery, and that made it really easy when I exported them over to Excel. I think it'll be easy when I'm doing that year to year, because next year I might be able to pick something different. But I picked discovery as a tag.
Awesome. That that was really, I will say a thank you for your time. I did sit with Tim on a Friday for hours, just sharing screens of him clicking on stuff and him going, "Yeah, Andy, I've already determined that this was, a closed business. Why do you want me to click here and there?" And so I really do appreciate the effort to go in to make the product much more efficient. And it's on our roadmap to drive that efficiency. I really, really appreciate it. All right, so as I'm getting close to the end, if you have additional questions, or if you want a a demo just for your jurisdiction, like I do virtual demos all the time. I'm sure Jay would gladly talk to you. Tim volunteers time. Thank you. Uh, but there's our contact information. I really appreciate everybody jumping on and on their busy days to hear about a new technology that is kind of sweeping through the country as we've gone um, from literally inventing these really cool products to now we're in 16 states and growing. So I really appreciate everyone taking the time, and thank you. And send a note if you want a recording as well. And thank you for your time. Appreciate it.